everyone, and welcome back to my channel Gabbabetic, and welcome to today's video. Continuing on with my Medtronic user guide video series. So today's video is a bit more detailed. It's probably the one with the most information. It's still a small video like the others, but this video we're going to talk about how to fill up the reservoir and change the infusion set. So basically we're going to talk about doing a complete pump change. If you're familiar with pumps, you'll know what I'm talking about, and if you're brand new to pumps like I was a few months ago, this will be completely new, so hopefully it'll give you all of the information that you need. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give it a big thumbs up, comment down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. So first, I'm just going to chat about why would I need to do a pump change or change the reservoir in the infusion set. First of all, the main thing is that you might run out of insulin, and you're lucky on the Medtronic 780g on both the phone app and on the pump itself. It'll give you a little icon to say when the insulin is running low, and I believe it alarms at certain amounts. I think mine's set to alarm when there's 20 units left to give a warning as well, just in case you missed that little icon. The pump and the phone both alarm for me. Another reason then, the infusion site, which I'll show you now, mine's on my stomach. You cannot wear it forever, basically. You have to change it. In Ireland, the guidance is that you can wear the infusion set for maximum 3 days and then you can change it. There is an extended 7-day infusion set, but I don't have that one. So when I'm talking about it, I'm just talking about the 3-day one. Some people change after 2 days. You know, it's really what suits you. I do 3 days. So my reminders on my pump are a set change reminder every 3 days. So I see that come up on my pump sometimes. Some other reasons why you might need to change is could be something like your infusion site rips out, or the insulin doesn't seem to be working quite right, or there's a kink in the line, different things like that. Although it's complicated, there's essentially 3 parts to doing the set change. So we're going to need our insulin, which I have in a cover here. We're going to need our actual infusion site, and then we're going to need a reservoir. Just to show you briefly, there are different kind of variation, well, not of the insulin, obviously there's a different variation. I'm using NovaRapid. There's different variations, I believe, of the infusion set and of the reservoir. So here's my reservoir. As you can see, it's a 3 ml reservoir. That's why that's written on the side there. And it also says it on the back, but I believe you can get different amounts that the reservoir holds. But for me, I use 3 ml. And this is my infusion set, and you can see here it says the length of the line. So the length of the line for me is 60 centimeters, and that's actually what the MMT 242A. 242A is the length. This is the box that they come in. So you get a box of 10. And it's written on there too. So just wanted to show you there's slight variations in the reservoir and the infusion and obviously the insulin, but what I'm using today is a 3 ml reservoir and a 60 centimeter mini med advanced infusion set. So let's start with the actual infusion set change. So I hope you'll see me from here. So I'm going to show you where mine is. So as you can see here, this is my current infusion set and line. I'll show you my pump now. Here is my current infusion set here. And here's my pump. So let's start our set change. So I'll show you what to press on the pump. Current reading 6.8, which is pretty good. So over here, or 5.8, and I go over to this little icon, which is called reservoir and set. Click on there, and I'm going to choose new reservoir. So it tells me to remove the infusion set from the body and then to rewind the pump. So what that means is take out my old reservoir. This is how it looks if you haven't seen one. And peel off the old infusion site from the body. You can see it does leave a bit of a mark, so definitely need to rotate that site. So these are the old things that are going in the sharp spot. Now we need to rewind our pump because we need the piston to go back down into the pump so that it will be ready for the next reservoir set. So all you do is press rewind, and the pump basically just does that itself. You can hear it. So that's the pump rewinding there. The pump tells us when it's finished rewinding. Saying number 1, we have to fill the reservoir, so let's start with that. So put my infusion set to the side and my pump over there for a minute and open up the reservoir. Now this is very hard because I'm holding the camera, so I will show you in steps. So I'm going to open up the reservoir. I've done that there, so I've taken it out, and I've also taken the cover off my insulin vial. Here is my Medtronic reservoir, so you can see that there's already a needle built in. This is what we're going to be plugging into this vial here to withdraw the insulin. So let's start with that. Here we go, my insulin vial. Get my reservoir. So you want to have an idea of how much you want to use. So I never fill this up to the full 3 ml because I will just never use that amount. So I aim for just somewhere around there, just kind of above the 2. So pull that back, and then you actually push out the air again, and then you push that down onto the insulin vial. So you're kind of pushing it in at the moment. At the same time, like if I let go, this would move back. Flip it over, and now we're going to start to see the insulin go down into the reservoir like that. See it all filling up into the reservoir when I start to pull down. I want to fill up to where I want it, which is about here, I'd say. I think that's how much insulin I'm going to use. Next important step, while we have this here, show it there, we want to check for air bubbles. This one's not looking too bad, but usually you'll see air bubbles along the lines here. I can actually see one on this side here. So to get rid of air bubbles, you just kind of flick around, and obviously it's very important to get rid of them because they will block your infusion line. Sometimes another trick is to go like this, hold it, and you can see the air bubbles kind of moving. There's actually none in this, so I'm doing really well, but I'm still just going to give it a flick around in case there's any that I haven't seen. So that looks fine. Then I just flip it upside down and pull off, and I have my reservoir filled. As for this, take off this part. This is the needle that we use to drop the insulin. I put my cover back on my insulin vial because I don't want anything to happen to it for the next 3 days, and I leave this at room temperature. Once you've taken it out of the fridge and start to use it, leave it out at room temperature. So I just leave it beside my desk. Sometimes when you're doing this, your pump will actually come out of the menu, but that's okay. You just literally click back in. So we filled our reservoir. Next step, connect tubing to reservoir. So let's go ahead and do that. Our tubing is located inside this infusion set. So we open it up. There's two parts. The first part we're going to remove for later. That's the actual kind of site that you saw me remove. And what's left is our tubing. So I take that out. It looks like this. And I'm going to need all of that length of the wire. So I take off the kind of plastic wrapping, and I should have a 60 centimeter line like this. Get my reservoir from earlier. If you still have the plastic cap on, you can take it off now, but it's actually handy to keep on because if you've air bubbles, you can remove a few at this point. So I kind of keep it on. So I pushed that in, you'll hear a click, and you can hear that click. That means it's ready. So nice and tight on there on my reservoir. At this point, maybe this is more advanced, so I won't talk about it much. You could push air bubbles through if you want, but we won't do it for now because we'll do it in the next step. So I can remove my plastic from the bottom, and then I have my reservoir connected. As you can see, it gives you a very strong warning, don't connect to body yet. So we fill the reservoir, we put the tubing on it, we go to next. Now we have to put our reservoir into our pump and lock it. So what you do, get that and start twisting it in until it moves no more. Like it will look horizontal like that on the pump, and it'll be locked. You won't be able to move it anymore. And don't forget, we still have it covered at the bottom. So we put the reservoir into the pump, don't connect to the body. Next, we're going to load the reservoir. So this is really easy. All that you have to do is literally hold it. And at this point, what is happening is the piston that we rewound earlier is starting to fill up and push up into the reservoir, because it depends how much you fill the reservoir where the piston needs to go. So you literally hold it for a few minutes or a few seconds. Mine takes kind of long because I don't really fill up my reservoir too much when I'm midweek. I usually have about 150 units of insulin for 3 days. That's the reservoir done, so it lets you know, and you press next. Now we want to fill the tubing. So for this part, this is at the end of our pump. We unclip it so that it's free for the drops of insulin to come out. And we're going to press fill. And you'll hear it start to go. And the rule that they gave me in the hospital was till about 4 drops of insulin come out of the top. Also, it's very hard to show you here, but you will see air bubbles being pushed through. So you can hold for that long too to let them go through. Usually for me, it's about 10 units. You can see all the drops of insulin there. So they're gone. And I press next. Now we're going to put our infusion set into the body. Back to here now. We're going to put on our infusion set. So at this point, what we need is this piece, which we put away at one point. So when you've picked your site, so I'm going to pick somewhere not near where I last had the infusion. I'm going to put it on the right hand side because my sensor's on the right hand side, and I find there's better connection if you keep everything on one side. So I think I'm going to go about here. One tip I'll show you is that if you look on this, you'll see there's kind of like arrows, and that is the direction that the opening of this infusion set is going to be. So the opening is here. If I turn it here, the opening is here. So definitely have a think when you're placing it. If you want the opening, you want it kind of on the outside if you're pumping your pump in your pocket or something. So I'll be putting it like here. So I'm ready to do it. So all I do is I peel off the sticky layer on the bottom like this. So you can see it's ready to go there. And then I remove that. So it's ready to go. I look at where the arrows are, find a spot on my stomach that I want to put it on, which I'm going to go for here. I place it on, so it's stuck on there. And then I just press into this white button. Here, there, and it's on. Here it is. As you can see what I was saying, there's the opening that we're going to clip into in a second. So that's facing out of my body, which is where the arrows were. And yeah, it's on there, ready to go. So let's connect our pump. Back here, it says insert the infusion set into the body. So I have it here. And I'll just go back to show you a bit. So I have it, clip it in there, connected to me. And then the pump says, fill cannula or select done if not needed. I was taught that you always do need to fill it. And the reason that you're pressing fill is that you're kind of, the insulin is obviously in here. You're going to bring the insulin right up to the very top of the cannula without doing a bolus, so that when you do your bolus, the insulin is right at the very top and it goes in straight away and you don't miss any amount of insulin. So I press fill. My fill amount was set in my pump training 0.6. So I press fill now. And I can see it filling the cannula. Remember, again, this isn't insulin that's going into you. This is just insulin that's basically priming the cannula. So that's filling there. Now, that made a noise. That's filled there. So as you can see, when it's filled, it says basal delivery is resumed. And I go back into SmartGuard mode and I am finished my pump change. So I'm all connected once again. I've done my pump change. It's not hard once you know what you're doing, but it's very overwhelming, I found at the start, because I didn't know what I was doing. There is a whole chapter in the user guide on this. It's chapter 4, and it just basically goes through everything that I talked about here. It shows you some diagrams. You know, there's a diagram of the piston showing you how that looks, how to rewind, how to fill up the insulin reservoir, and how to, you know, check for air bubbles. There's a few extra notes. They're just kind of telling you how to handle things. Always rewind the pump. It's saying like failure to rewind the pump could mean an unintentional infusion. So they're just kind of warnings of steps that you have to do. Always check for air bubbles, that kind of thing. There's here a note that I didn't know, so I'm learning something too. This one says if you use more than 30 units of insulin to fill the tubing, it will alarm. So that's interesting, I never heard of that. And it says the pump will remember the last fill amount used, where you can place the infusion site, and how to do a change if you only want to change the cannula and not the reservoir. So that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely some extra things, just kind of warnings, things to remember in that chapter. Nothing really to point out to you now. Right, that was my pump change video. So my pump is here all ready to go now. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and like, and I'll see you all for the next whatever video I do in this series. And let me know if your infusion site set change is any different. It's obviously different for different pumps, but I feel like people can kind of make their own tweaks and techniques when they're doing it. So let me know how your set change is, and I'll see you all in the next video.